Hello and welcome. I am Aru're, and today we're going to be talking about learning complex games. What a complex game is a game that has a lot of mechanics and stuff that you need to learn. Whether it's just a lot of just gameplay systems that interlock together, or a lot of characters that you need to learn matchups and stuff like that. And today we're going to be using Eternal Return to discuss how to learn a complex game. Eternal Return is a very complex game because it has a lot of mechanics between farming and build items and all sorts of abilities and stuff like that. And I'm also focusing on Eternal Return because I am personally a fairly new player in this game. I just started playing last week, and I personally have done a lot to learn the game. I think I'm at a pretty decent level at this point as a new player, and I wanted to share some of my experiences both learning this game and provide some pointers on how you might learn other complex games in the future. And so the first thing I'd like to talk about, the first step to learning a complex game, I would say, is to basically just do the tutorial. One of the biggest problems of complex games is that you don't know anything about the game, and the first thing you should do is learn some amount of knowledge. And for most games, the tutorial is going to be the main way to actually just look up to just learn information about the game. However, a lot of complex games have a problem where the tutorial is just too much information. Because what happens with a lot of these complex games is that they need to teach you all of the mechanics of the game in order for you to potentially get to a point where you can actually just play with other people. But at the same time, there's also a problem where you just find too much information all at once and you just learn nothing in the end. And so I'm going to give you a few additional steps beyond just doing the tutorial to help you find a way to actually learn the game. And the next three steps, I'm going to say these aren't exclusively supposed to be done in this particular order. I'm just doing this to help make it easier for you. You can do any of these next three steps in any order you want based on what your preferences are, but I'm just putting them in these steps because I think this ends up being the most efficient way to talk about them. So the next step would be to find a hook. Basically, a hook would be something that gets you excited to play the game, even though you don't really know how to play the game, and you probably don't know how to play the game at all, even though you've just done the tutorial. And I think the best way to look at it is to go to it. A lot of cases, the main hook of the game is going to be like a character or something that gets you really looking forward to playing the game more. And so one of the best ways to look in Eternal Return would be to look at the characters, which are included on the collectible screen. As you notice here, that Eternal Return currently has 86 characters. It's really hard to find something that strikes your fancy based on what characters are available. You might find someone that really catches your eye, but in general, you're probably not going to find someone that speaks to you, which brings me to the second step. Simplify the play experience as much as possible. And what I mean by that is, in a lot of cases, you need a lot of the mechanics of the game in order to succeed at a mid to high level, but there ends up being a problem where if you're just starting out, you can't really be worried about playing at a high level when you're just starting out. And more importantly, you probably won't be at a level where you need to use all of the game mechanics in order to succeed at lower levels. You might need to do it if the game has been out for a while and there's not a whole lot of new players coming in. Eternal Return is sort of like that. But in general, you're going to find a lot more success early on if you focus on a few mechanics. And we can actually use this idea to help us find a hook by reducing the character, finding a way to simplify the amount of characters being shown. And a great way to do this is to filter by characters that are on the free character rotation in normal matches. And as you'll see here, there are currently 10 characters that are free for this week, and you can potentially find a character that speaks to you. In my case, I already own Lennox, so I'm not going to talk about her. She would probably be the one that appeals to me the most, but in this case, I'm going to talk about Kenneth. I have not played Kenneth at all. So I'm kind of starting at basically square one with him. So I'm going to use him to talk about some of the other ideas that I've been talking about, because I think from what I hear and what I've seen of him, I might actually enjoy him. And then this also brings us to the third idea of learn as much as you can within a safe environment. So in this case, I'm going to try and learn as much as I can with Kenneth without ever actually stepping foot into an actual game. And so you notice on his character screen here, he's got a summary of the character showing off his weapon, his role on the team. Fighters are usually characters that get into a fight and are usually a bit more durable than some of the longer range characters, and they're still usually expected to take some damage. That's not true for every fighter. I think Eternal Return does some weird stuff where a lot of characters end up being labeled as fighters if they are designed to be like a short range damage dealer, regardless of how durable they are, unless they are extremely mobile. And by extremely mobile, I mean like there are like 4 characters officially labeled assassins, and like maybe almost half the roster's fighters. But anyway, hey, we can take a look at Kenneth stuff here. Voice lines we can kind of ignore. Story we can kind of ignore. Skins we can definitely ignore, but skills are kind of where your main things are going to learn. So you see a bit of a preview of the abilities over here, and you can see that you can change between the different abilities here. So in this case, we have his Q, Fury Strike, like a AoE knockback. It's at short ranges. Inferno, which is a shield that also deals damage. And then his E, is that a dash? Yeah, it is a dash. And it also increases attack speed or something. And then Flame Crush, that's like a big combo hit. And it CCs and okay, so it's just a big damage nuke that happens to knock opponents up twice. And we can look at his passive. Okay, so it's basically a passive that builds up when he deals damage, and then when it's stacked, he deals additional damage each time an attack or skill hits, and then he also recovers his health equal to the damage dealt with it. So it's basically If he's in the fight long enough, he'll deal bonus damage and he'll also heal a bit. Weapon skill, I'm not going to talk about because that's kind of part of the simplification process that I learned is that when you start, you can kind of ignore the weapon skill for a bit. You can ignore the tactical skill for a bit. You eventually want to put them back in, but for now, it's you don't want to overwhelm yourself. It's like the big point of all these points is that you don't overwhelm yourself while learning, and that all the information that you have is manageable. And it's kind of like cooking food. It's like you might make a meal for yourself, but you might make a little bit too much food, and what you could do is you can try to eat all that food all at once, and you might get really sick off of eating all of that extra food. But if you take some of that extra food and store it away for later, you might have leftovers for another day, and you can enjoy the meal again, and that means you can enjoy the food twice, and you can enjoy the food more both times. Whereas if you tried eating it all at once, you just get sick and you might not enjoy your food at all. And so something else that Eternal Return allows you to do is that you can just try the character out in practice mode. And in Eternal Return, I found that that's very useful for a few good reasons. So we're going to boot into practice mode right here. I am going to showcase some of the aspects of training mode that kind of helps you learn the character. One of the big things is that Eternal Return does is that it offers you save plans. Basically, these are build orders for items that I'll get into in a little bit, but basically that simplifies a lot of the scaling aspects of Eternal Return. Eternal Return is both a MOBA, where that's kind of defined by the ability to gain power over time by purchasing items, and it's also a battle royale, which is also defined by being able to gather items from the environment and use them against a lot of other teams of players. So in practice mode, the benefits of going here is you can kind of take the learning process of trying to actually incorporating your save plan into a game and go and you can take that save plan into practice mode and just practice learning it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the save plan that I have, and I'm going to try and gather all of this items within the save plan, and just try and do that. I'm going to try and do it as quickly as possible, but when you're starting out, it helps you to take the time to just make sure you're doing it correctly. There's only one chance to learn things correctly, but you can always learn to do things faster. So basically how a large part of Eternal Return works is that you're gathering items to craft stronger items so that you can fight other players and potentially win against them. So in this case, I'll have a bunch of items down here, and I can just press Z to craft them.
I'm not even mad about this.
So,
Kids are all right.
come on. Another thing that this allows you to do is it allows you to get used to the control scheme. For a lot of people, click to move in particular is not very easy to learn, and being able to just practice the controls will help you learn the game. Also important is that you can also learn how to do combat. So in that case, I'm just going to kill the chickens, and that's going to give me some leather that I can use to craft items, but also gives me some experience and some weapon mastery so I can potentially get stronger. And one of the big things that Eternal Return does in terms of with its scaling is that you have to use a lot of items. How do I say this? There's a lot of items that you need to get in order to keep up with other players, and you're usually keeping up with like 3 or 4 other teams, at least like 6 or 7 other teams. So, where am I going? Oh. On the topic of learning, I ended up trying to do something different with this video and tried to record while I was doing some gameplay, and that just did not work out because it seems that I cannot actually like play and talk at the same time. And so I figured I'd go and post and just focus on and just talk a bit more about what I'm doing with the training. And the main thing that you'll see me doing here is I'm still like scavenging for stuff and looking for the items I need. And also keeping up by just killing all the neutral monsters I come across. And the reason for that basically just has to do with like how scaling works in Eternal Return. So in a lot of cases you need items in order to power up, and a lot of the monsters just give you items. And then also, you have a lot of the monsters also provide like experience and stuff, and the items themselves. In addition to all that, you also have a lot of items that you need to get like early and stuff. And what I'm going through doing with all that is one, it's like it's helping me learn how to do combat and just learn how the game works and stuff. And the other thing that it's helping me do is it's helping me like learn the map and learn how to do macro and stuff, especially with the late game items that I'm working on here. How a lot of the items in Eternal Return work is that one, that in the early game you're looking for your purple items, which you just get from scavenging around. But in the mid to late game, you're looking for advanced components like trees of life, meteorites, and stuff like that. So that's how I use training mode. The fifth step to learning is to just play some games. And here I'm going to show a couple different games that show different aspects of like the learning process and stuff. And with here, I'm going to be zooming, just fast forwarding through a lot of the like early game and a lot of the downtime, because Eternal Return is a battle royale, and because it's a battle royale, there's a lot of like downtime that you have between fights and stuff, and you can spend a lot of time just not you can spend a lot of time just roaming around, gathering stuff, just doing macro and stuff. So I think this is also a good time to talk about like some of the other like just general like staying motivated in terms of just how to stay motivated while learning, because like learning a game for the first time. Actually, I'm gonna take a break here because we get into a bit of a fight here. Here I was collecting items from the school and ended up having items needed to collect from the warehouse, and got recommendations from Dr. Nadia, who is like the NPC that helps you with the game. Like, go to the warehouse, and it just happened to teleport me right in front of an enemy team. So, and I'm still not out of the woods yet. There is an enemy team just following me, and thankfully I'm on a team with an allied Naya, and with have an Naya and a human as my teammates. And the human comes here and helps me fight the Kenneth here, the opposing Kenneth here. Unfortunately, it does not go well for us. The enemy Sua comes in and helps her teammate, and then kills my teammate, kills me, and what ends up happening is we have to revive and come back. And thankfully, Eternal Return does have a couple systems useful for learning the game when you're starting out. The first one is the automatic respawns, which are available for the first 2 days. And basically how they work is that if you're downed on the first day, you automatically respawn in after like a 30 seconds or so, and you can choose to either respawn anywhere on the map or you can choose to respawn with your teammates. And the other system that's also very useful is the wipe protection mechanic, which is kind of like a separate mechanic that does the same thing, where it's like you respawn after if your entire team gets wiped, you can respawn on it up to the second night if in normals, and in ranked it's like up to the first day or something. And the reason that's used, I don't know why exactly the two are different, but they are in fact different. And so anyway, going further with how to learn, it's like a lot of the issues with learning are just staying motivated and with learning the game. And a couple of reasons for that is like you're not very good at the game, and that's okay. We're here to get better. But also, it's like the other thing to remember is that you will oftentimes be wrong when you're learning, and it's sometimes hard to break the habits you have. Like apparently, it's not correct to actually just farm the way I am here. We're going to get into a little bit of a fight here. I think it's yeah. No, that's an enemy Razi. We get into a lot of like fights like that where a player on a team is just running around and doing nothing of use, but just kind of just still giving us free kills. And then there's another team like fighting that was fighting us for a bit.
Is it my turn?
My team gets into another air fight over here. I can't tell who those are, but it's not gonna matter because like they are not an Abigail.
A subject has been terminated.
I think that might be an Abigail. Okay. Anyway, we get into a couple of fights, and I'm feeling pretty good about our chances of like doing pretty well here. Because on one hand, we haven't really had a proper team fight yet, but on the other hand, we are like staying like we're scaling decently well, and we're keeping up with whatever teams we're finding. That kind of changes here when we get attacked by the Sicilla here. She is chunking all three of us for a good amount of damage, and even though it's a 1v3, I think it was right for us to just back off at this point. We do get attacked by this Razi. It might be the same. Is this the same? Yeah, I think it might be the same Razi. There's only one Razi in this game. So we get this very free kill here. I don't know what the Razi was actually doing. The Razi might be like legitimately new, or might be a bot. That happens in like normals and stuff. Anyway, we get the kill, and we are back to macro and scat farming and stuff like that. For now. So again, it's like a lot of what's going on in an actual game is just applying what you learned in other areas in an actual game. And in this case, like some of the times you frequently learn like stuff that like between games and stuff that you apply. Like I don't know if any of you noticed, but when okay, it's another fight that just ended just way too quickly. Okay, it looks like that. I don't know who that was. Okay, it was probably like the Abigail that was there and fighting the Marcus, which is one of her teammates. He's a lot tankier and stuff, but we end up it's 3v1. We end up killing him anyway, and it looks like Team 7 is eliminated. So that means we are one step closer to like actually like winning and stuff. It is currently night 3. And so another team gets eliminated right there off screen from another team, and so we're kind of like doing all right. It is normals though, so no real consequences for anything. We get another one here. This one's a Katya on team 4. Just managed to catch her out, and suddenly there are 4 teams left, and so we are still going on an upwards trajectory, but not everything is going to go well. More fighting here. These are 2 different players on 2 different teams that happen to get caught out from teams 5 and 6. So that Razi just keeps getting caught out by us. So anyway, we're doing like decently okay at this point. It is important. It is important to know that, again, because of the nature of battle royales, you always have to stay on your toes and just keep scaling and stuff. So anyway, back to what I was saying. What I had done in training mode for like clearing camps and whatnot is I was focusing on leveling up my Q, which is that AoE ability here. Okay, got another team fight here. This one is a full-blown team fight, and it does not start out well for us at all, but okay, me and the human are down. Maybe if the Naya gets like a triple and just cleans up the enemies and or we revive her. Bruh. She goes in 1v3 and dies. Okay. Well, that's another thing to remember is like you're not always, because of the nature of team games, you're not always going to get matched with the best players, and you can't, I've talked about this before, but you can't always, it's not always good to it's very bad to just focus a lot on what other players are doing. You should be focusing on what you can do in order to play better, and like eventually you'll get to a point where it's like you can kind of like play with these people and kind of carry them out of into a win or whatever, or at least not to lose so much. So anyway, this is another game that I had. This time I end up teaming up with a Leon and a Tsubame. I get attacked by this Fenrir here, and I just run away. He was a level ahead of me, so I figured, okay, this is not going to end well for me if I take this fight, so I'll just go back to farming and make sure I can get, I can keep up with the other players. Embarrassingly, I missed the Q on that bear, and it takes a bit longer to just farm it. My Tsubame dies here, and then my Leon dies, and what ends up happening, again, the automatic respawns are coming in very useful here for just allowing us to stay farmed and stuff. We get into a fight with the Adina, and she just manages to run away well. When our Leon respawns too, and he starts following us. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Like okay, we're gonna chase this Esol too, but it's not gonna amount to much. He's just going to run away, and we're not gonna be able to catch him. I switched to the perspective of the Leon just to get a better idea of what's going on, but that does not work out. Anyway, in training mode, I had focused more on like maxing Q because I figured, hey, it's an AoE ability and that'll probably help. Okay, I can't talk right now because we're getting into another team fight. Our Tsubame gets caught out, and I go to help our Tsubame, and this is also kind of like introducing the main villain of this one. We killed the Fenrir, and unfortunately, we trigger his passive, and then their Tsubame kind of cleans up. That Team 5, consisting of a Hisui, Fenrir, and Tsubame, is going to be a recurring villain for us throughout this entire video, and it's going to be it is kind of interesting. Here they are attacking us again. Well, attacking me again. And they're just chasing me at this point. I'm trying to just run away, and I am doing an okay job at it. But my Leon sees it, and he starts like coming to help me. And at this point, it's actually just 2v1. It's actually a 2v2 at this point. I get an ult onto both of them, and we actually get kills onto both of them too. But unfortunately, their Tsubame is just too healthy for us to get to, and then our Tsubame goes in and tries to clean up and isn't able to do that. So we get another wipe on day 2, and we have to just go back in. At this point, I don't think we're like doing all that well. At this point, we are kind of like every time we fight, I had a full team fight, we're not doing well. But again, like learning, if you're learning, you're going to like fail a lot, and that is part of the learning process. And at this point, we're still in the game, and we can still potentially like do well and place highly, and a lot of that is gonna come from like making sure that we're scaling and stuff. And so I get that box. That's one of the ways to get some of the items like some of the late game components like Tree of Life and Meteorite and stuff. So it's important to get stuff, those types of items. Back to what I was trying to say earlier. I was using in training mode. I was running a build focused on like maxing Q, because I figured, hey, it's AOE. It'll probably do. It'll probably be like the best thing to use for farming. And what I did later on is I checked the recommended build and actually recommended Emax. And so I started in the game. I actually focused more on like maxing my E first, and because I focused on maxing E, I had a lot more mobility this game. So in this instance, I get attacked by the enemy Zwellen, and the enemy, that's a Sua, and they end up killing both of us, and that ends up, before that, the enemy Debbie and Marlene had seen us, and I guess she told her teammates about us too. So anyway, I end up, because it's day 3 now, the automatic respawns are closed, so I end up having to wait for one of my teammates to revive me, and so I just skipped ahead to when my teammates actually revived me a little bit. So anyway, at this point, there are 3 teams. There are actually just 3 teams left, straight up. It seems like the other teams got eliminated by the other teams, and Tsubame actually like cleans up on a couple of the kills over here, while the Isol runs away to revive his own team, and that ends up being like that ends up being pretty useful, because like the Tsubame is kind of our main damage dealer here, or she is our She is basically our range DPS. So, and right now we're setting up around this meteorite. One of the things to remember is that Eternal Return is part MOBA and part Battle Royale, and both of those genres are kind of built around having some sort of objectives to go for, and those objectives, like the meteorite here, are really important. And so the Leon and I are going to give it to our Tsubame so she can scale. And again, it's generally best to just give those powerful late game components to your damage dealers as much as you can. Now, I think Leon and Kenneth are both like fightery damage dealery types, so it's like it makes a lot of sense to give the components to her. Off screen, teams 5 and 6 had actually gotten into a fight, and we actually get catch the remainder of Team 6 out here, the Justina and the Henry, and we ended up getting the kill there. And basically that just means it's final 2 at this point. And because it's final 2, we're kind of getting into the time where you can't revive people for at least a few more days and stuff, but also it's like there's a lot of like late game stuff going on. And it's also worth noting that it seems that Team 5 had gotten into the secret lab, which offers a bit of extra special items that offer more powerful scaling. Meanwhile, Dr. Weakline is on the map. Weakline is one of the epic monsters on the map. My teammates are going to start her without me, and that ends up that's not a great idea, because it's like Leon and I are both kind of like designed to be tanky, and because we're both designed to be tanky, either one of us could be tanking Dr. Weakline for our Tsubame. Now we're fighting Lumi, and Lumi is like the guide robot. Usually he has some sort of like usually he's got some sort of like, he's like a roaming cache, but here he's malfunction. Here we finally get into the final team fight of the game, and it is very short. Leon and I end up doing this sick wombo combo with what I believe are our ults, and the fight is just over super quickly because of that really good wombo combo. So anyway, that ends up being this is all about like learning complex games. I have one final lesson for you, however, and the sixth and final lesson is learn from each game you play and just keep playing games. So and just do it again, and you take all the lessons that you learn from one game and put them in the next game. So, well, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and hope the extra knowledge that I've provided, it will help you in the future, and have a great day.